Bleach vs Naruto debates always focus on the top tier characters like Ichigo vs Naruto or Madara vs Aizen, but today we're switching things up. What happens when Asuma Saratobi faces off against Ikkaku Madarame? I'm your host Ab-stract, and this is the Ab-stract section. We'll be diving into two phases of this battle, while breaking down the raw power, speed, and skills of both characters. Phase 1 will have both characters at their prime in all inverse scaling, and with Phase 2 we'll be equalizing stats. Also for Phase 1, we'll be using the triple AP scaling meta set by a YouTuber named Zalius. It holds the tenets of being as accurate and consistent as possible by only accepting necessary truth values. In other words, what must be true. So let's get started. We see in part 1 of Naruto, Asuma was able to take out several sound ninja by himself and somewhat hold his own against the likes of Kisame. In the third data book, he was regarded as the most skilled in CQC, otherwise known as close quarters combat. He is also stated to be almost as strong as Kakashi, but this is in part 1 of Naruto. So we know he's a very good hand-to-hand combatant, but how does he scale? The only scaling we're going to get from Asuma comes by way of Hidan and Kakuzu. Upon meeting them, Asuma admits inferiority to both of them, stating that they're far stronger than even me. But what does this mean in Naruto? In Naruto, strength isn't based on power or necessarily having more chakra than your opponent. I understand this can sometimes be the case, but the factors that truly determine a ninja's strength have little to do with raw power. As we can see, despite admitting inferiority, Asuma as well as his whole team is able to injure Hidan, corner him, and even if by Hidan's own stupidity, eventually capture him. What Asuma is admitting inferiority to is the skill gap that lies between them. Now whether that be chakra control or manipulation, techniques are just basic ninja skills as anyone's guess, but he doesn't lack the ability to injure or kill them. This is important because despite Hidan and Kakuzu taking down a two-tails Jinchuriki Yugito, this doesn't put them at a Biju's level of power in any regards, AP, durability, DC, etc. So there will be no chain scaling of, since Hidan and Kakuzu can injure a tailed beast and Asuma can injure both of them, then therefore Asuma should be able to injure a tail. We're not doing none of that stuff. For the most part, any ninja can injure another with basic attacks, as their durability doesn't scale to their chakra or AP. For more on that and a comprehensive breakdown of that subject, check out my video on the Naruto versus durability. With that being said, it's very hard to get a solid AP gauge from Asuma. While I'd like to comparatively scale him to other characters' AP, that doesn't really work because a lot of this stuff comes down to chakra control and manipulation, as well as Naruto characters not needing to scale to the people they hurt. So I'll be charitable and give Asuma an at least building level to large building level of attack potency. I think based on what we know and have seen from him, this is pretty fair. He himself has never caused any significant destruction to observe, and the people he's injured do not have to scale to that level of power. If anyone has an argument or feat placing him higher, please let me know in the comments. Moving on to techniques, Asuma's only notable jutsu is his Burning Ash attack. We see when he uses it on Hidan, despite the massive explosion, there is no damage to the environment whatsoever. No cratering, splitting, fracturing, or even burn marks on the ground. In fact, it didn't even do significant damage to Hidan's cloak, and he ran right in the middle of the explosion and put up no defense. We do see, however, it was enough to injure Asuma. His own attack gave him 2nd to 3rd degree burns and made him react to the pain. For this, I think it's fair to give him the high end of his AP. Reason being, I just can't see him using an attack that would be less potent than his regular strikes, so we'll be going with large building level for this attack. That's roughly 11 tons of TNT. Now aside from this technique, he is able to use Chidiku's jutsu but at a weaker and downgraded level. And that's all he has for ninjutsu. The only other thing to mention are his special chakra blades that he can use to increase his attack range and cutting power. They have feats of slicing through metal kunai but not much else. But since they are enhanced weapons, let's once again give Asuma the high end for his attacks and also put his strikes at large building level. Now as far as speed goes, we don't really have any solid feats, but Asuma should be slower than Hidan and Kakuzu, who can fight evenly with Kakashi. But how fast is Kakashi? For this, we'll be relying on a scale done by Zalius. So after being kicked by Kakuzu into the trees, Kakashi traveled at least 26 meters to intercept Kakuzu's chakra-based lightning style jutsu, and he did this in a time frame of 0.0066 seconds, putting his speed at Mach 11.64. With Asuma being slower than Kakashi, I think we can safely put him at Mach 10, just breaking into Hypersonic Plus. Now let's get into the Bleach side and talk about Ikkaku. For Ikkaku scaling, we truly don't need to go past the fight with Eterod to get a good sense of what he's capable of. To start off, Ikkaku was able to injure him in both his base and his Resurrection, albeit with Bunkai for the latter. Now this is important because unlike Naruto, in Bleach, a character's durability does actually scale to their Reiatsu as well as their attacks. For examples of this, we need to look no further than Kenpachi vs Ichigo and Ukiura vs Ichigo. In the fight with Kenpachi, Yachiru tells Ichigo that it's almost like his sword has no blade. Then Kenpachi gives us the reason for this, and he explains that the unconscious or passive Reiatsu he releases is much more powerful than the energy Ichigo is pouring into Zangetsu, thus he cannot cut him, and in fact took damage from the attempt. It's only when Ichigo realizes he has to rid himself of fear and intensify his own spirit energy is he able to successfully cut Kenpachi. So this tells us two things. Number one being that Reiatsu is an intrinsic defense, meaning it has those qualities without it being put to intentional or active use. It's simply a byproduct of the power system. Number two, your AP would scale to your Reiatsu as Ichigo is not able to cut Kenpachi in their first encounter, but after running around, ridding himself of fear and finding his resolve, he's able to intensify his output, thus cutting Kenpachi. Another good example of this is during Ichigo vs Ukiura. During their fight, Ichigo launches a holified Getsuga at Ukiura while in his first release, but the gap in power is so massive that Ukiura is able to block Ichigo's attack with his Reiatsu alone. And Ichigo can only hurt this Ukiura when gaining more power via his Vasto Lord transformation. Again, showing us the inherent defense of the versus power system, while at the same time showcasing Reiatsu equals AP. Now that we've established that, back to Ikkaku. Eterod is capable of producing attacks that can tower over and eclipse towns, showing a very good display of DC. Now although the attack is massive, the spread of it isn't concentrated, which would inherently take away from the AP. Meaning, although Ikkaku was hit by the attack that went through the city, he didn't take the full force of it. Nonetheless, it's still impressive and would far scale above anything Asuma would be able to produce. But then we have Ikkaku surviving a direct hit from Eterod where he would have to tank a majority of the energy used for the attack. And we know he did because he's still in the same spot the attack was launched. Now I want you guys to get a good look at that crater. As far as calcs go, what I may end up doing is having someone I trust get the accurate numbers and calc all relevant feats for me in the future, but for now I will default to VSB's interpretation of this feat. They have the total joules at this much, or around 61 kilotons of TNT, making this a Town Plus level attack. Now with 1 kiloton being 1,000 pounds of TNT, I want you guys to take a look at this video. Now what you just saw was 1,000 tons of TNT equaling up to a single kiloton. Now imagine that same blast multiplied by 61 but in a single attack. That is what Ikkaku tanked, and as I mentioned before, he would have taken a majority if not all the AP due to this being a direct attack slamming into him and the concentration of the energy being maintained in the crater's circumference. Now just for a reference, the Fat Man bomb that was dropped on Nagasaki during World War II contained anywhere from 19 to 23 kilotons of TNT. Ikkaku tanked damn near double this and it was all concentrated on him. Moving on. Ikkaku, after engaging his Bankai and going full power, is now able to injure this same Eterod and overpower him with his attacks. And as we proved earlier, your Reiatsu would scale to your durability in AP. And taking into account in the Rankar's Hiedo, Ikkaku would have to be attacking with the same force he was hit with or higher to injure Eterod. Now how fast is Ikkaku? Bleach fans, do not kill me for this, but due to the triple AP meta, I will not be using any supposed statements of light to scale Ikkaku to light speed. So no negacion, no zeros being light speed, etc, none of that stuff. Going by how we scaled Asuma, we will again be using necessary minimums or what must be true. So we'll be using some feats and scaling that happened during the Soul Society arc. So, Orihime's Santen Kesshun has been calced to react at around Mach 7, as it was able to block a point-blank explosion from Mayuri's Kamikaze squad. Now what's interesting here is that Uryu was able to casually blitz Orihime, who can react to these Mach 7 speeds. But this isn't just any blitz, it's a perception blitz. Orihime couldn't keep track of Uryu at all and didn't even realize she had been moved until it had already happened. And mind you, she was staring directly at him when this happened. So how fast does Uryu have to be to pull this off? On the low end, we can estimate his speed at around Mach 14 if we define a blitz as being 2 times faster than your opponent's reaction speed. But since Orihime couldn't perceive him at all, we're looking at something much more impressive. To completely bypass Orihime's perception, someone who can react to Mach 7 speeds, Uryu would need to be moving at least 10 times faster. This puts him at around Mach 70 or just in the high hypersonic range. Now it's clear during this part of the series that Ichigo was the strongest member of the rescue squad and he had just finished having a mid to high diff fight against Ikkaku. So Ikkaku landing anywhere near Ichigo and therefore Uryu's ranges of speed would be good. But let's just say Ikkaku is 2 times slower than Uryu's movement speed. So we would take that Mach 70, divide it by 2 and get Mach 35. Still way above anything Asuma has shown. And if you think there's even more of a gap, we'll say Ikkaku is 5 times slower than Uryu. This would still have him at Mach 14, much faster than Asuma. So for round 1, I think it's clear, this goes to Ikkaku pretty handedly. He outspeeds him, and his AP and durability far outclass anything Asuma has been able to show or produce. Even with Ikkaku's love of battle, which sometimes causes him to fight recklessly, Asuma wouldn't be able to capitalize on it, so Ikkaku takes this low diff. Moving on to phase 2, where we'll be looking at this fight but with equal stats. How much, if at all, does this fight change? Well, now we actually got a fight. With Asuma being able to keep up in the speed and AP department, he will greatly injure someone like Ikkaku, who treats life or death fights as a game. I see Ikkaku releasing Hozukimaru, and although this helps, the experience and tactical prowess of a shinobi cannot be underestimated. Asuma is no stranger to fighting weird or strange weapons, and he's done this on 2 accounts. In the case of Hidan with his triple scythe and against Kisame Sharkskin. So someone like him should be able to read Ikkaku's moves very easily in Shikai and not misjudge the weapon as Ichigo did. With his reckless fighting style, I do believe Ikkaku would be forced in a corner by Asuma, and with no other options left or tricks up his sleeves, he would release his Bankai Ryomon Hozukimaru. Now everything after this point just gets bad for Asuma. With the release and awakening of Hozukimaru, its power progressively increases the more damage Ikkaku takes or deals, and by this point Ikkaku would have been taking a lot of cuts and slashes from Asuma, but in the end, nothing Asuma has can stop the raw power of Hozukimaru. The second that Dragon on his blade reaches full power, he would effortlessly cleave through Asuma and anything in his way. And there you have it. Ikkaku wins both phases, with the second phase being a high diff fight. If you enjoyed this versus battle, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and get in the comments and give me more matchups. Ab-stract Section 2024, we out.